lovelies, it is time for another round of Have I Read It? So stay tuned. If you're new here, hi, hello, welcome. If you're not new here, welcome back. Have I Read It is one of my multiple TBR games that I play in order to help pick my TBR for the upcoming month. And the way this one works is you get to help pick my TBR. So I react to a haul from over 3 years ago, and I tell you if I've read the book, if I haven't read the book, if I've unhauled the book. And out of all of the books that I still own that I have not read from that haul, you get to vote on which book or books you want me to read in the upcoming month. And depending on the number of unread books will determine how many I have to pick. So if I have 1 through 9 unread, then I have to pick the number 1 voted book. If I have 10 to 19, I have to pick the top 2 voted books, and so on and so on. So, today we're going to be reacting to my book haul part 1 from October 2020. I apparently did this in 2 parts because it was massive. If you see the thumbnail, it shows me standing next to a stack of books that are almost as tall as I am. Yeah. And this first video is a long one. So, I'm nervous. I have no idea what could be in this haul. So I will be doing part 2 in my next Have I Read It. So yeah, I'm nervous. Okay, I've got my earbuds plugged in. I've got the video pulled up. Let's get started.
Hey guys, it's Melanie. Welcome to my channel. Today I have a massive, and I mean massive, October book haul for you. So stay tuned. So I somehow managed to accumulate 59 books in October. And that doesn't even include, I got a couple of e-arcs as well, but I'm not including that in this. I think if I included that, I'd have 64, I think. Insane. So I kind of have these split up into, these are books that I got, let me see. Okay, some of these are books I bought from McKay's. Others are books that I got as like a giveaway or sent to me by the author. Also books that I got in subscription boxes. And then over here are ones that I got from various places online. I think they're all online. There may be some like from a store. Alright, I think I'm going to start with, because it's a bigger stack and I actually have more stuck in front of it, I'm going to start with the books that I got from McKay's here. So this first one is actually one that I'm going to be sending to my friend Kayla, who has a book channel as well, and I will link her down below. She's one of the co-hosts for the Merry Bookmas this year. And, well, at McKay's you can get used books, including arcs that are like, you know, past the date. They'll sell them cheap. So I actually already had an arc of this book and forgot about it. And so I ended up buying a used arc for $1.50. And that is This Train Is Being Held by Ismee Williams.
Okay, so as I already said in the video, I was actually sending that to Kaylani, so I don't own that one. I've unhauled it. All right, next up.
All right, next up we have The Jumbies by Tracy Baptiste.
I feel like I've unhauled The Jumbies, but I have to check. Okay, no, it looks like I do still own this one. I'm guessing it's in my closet in my guest room. So The Jumbies is book 1 of the series. And hold on, let me check something real quick. So I do have all 3 books in this series, so they're probably all together in that closet. Anyway, so The Jumbies is book 1. This says, the start of an exciting series filled with Caribbean folklore and daring adventure. Corinne Lemaire claims she isn't afraid of anything. Not scorpions, not the boys who tease her, and certainly not jumbies. They're just tricksters made up by parents to frighten their children. Then one night, Corinne chases an agouti all the way into the forbidden forest, and shining yellow eyes follow her to the edge of the trees. They couldn't belong to a jumbie, or could they? When Corinne spots a beautiful stranger at the market the very next day, she knows something extraordinary is about to happen. When this same beauty, called Severine, turns up at Corinne's house, danger is in the air. Severine plans to claim the entire island for the Jumbies. Corinne must call on her courage and her friends and learn to use ancient magic she didn't know she possessed to stop Severine and to save her island home. So, if you want me to read this, vote the Jumbies. Oh, and I looked. Part 2 is almost as long as part 1. All right, next up.
Next up, we have the Bromance Book Club by Lisa Kay.
I have read and still own the Bromance Book Club. Love that series. All right, next.
Next up, we have The Friend Zone by Abby Jimenez.
I don't think I've read that. Let me see. Let me look on my Goodreads. I was trying to see if I could see it on my shelves, but my shelves are a mess. Okay, I do still own it, and I have not read it. This is also a first in a series, though I only have the first book. This says, Kristen Peterson doesn't do drama, will fight to the death for her friends, and has no room in her life for guys who just don't get her. She's also keeping a big secret, facing a medically necessary procedure that will make it impossible for her to have children. Planning her best friend's wedding is bittersweet for Kristen, especially when she meets the best man, Josh Copeland. He's funny, sexy, never offended by her mile-wide streak of sarcasm, and always one chicken enchilada ahead of her hangry. Even her dog, Stuntman Mike, adores him. The only catch, Josh wants a big family someday. Kristen knows he'd be better off with someone else, but as their attraction grows, it's harder and harder to keep him at arm's length. So if you want me to read this, vote The Friend Zone. All right, next up.
And then we have Carry On by Rainbow Rowell.
Okay, I do still own this and have not read it, but I'm not sure if this is a first in a series or something else. Okay, it is actually the first in the series. And I know this is like a spin-off, not necessarily a spin-off, but it's like I think it's Fangirl. She writes this fan fiction called like a web comic or something like that. An online story. Anyway, she's writing this and it's called Carry On. And it's about Simon Snow. So this says, Simon Snow is the worst chosen one who's ever been chosen. That's what his roommate Baz says. And Baz might be evil and a vampire and a complete git, but he's probably right. Half the time, Simon can't even make his wand work. The other half, he starts something on fire. His mentor's avoiding him, his girlfriend broke up with him, and there's a magic-eating monster running around, wearing Simon's face. Baz would be having a field day with all of this if he were here. It's their last year at Watford School of Magics, and Simon's infuriating nemesis didn't even bother to show up. Carry On, The Rise and Fall of Simon Snow is a ghost story, a love story, and a mystery. It is just as much kissing and talking as you'd expect from a Rainbow Rowell story, but far, far more monsters. So if you want me to read this, vote Carry On. All right, next up.
Next we have The Last Voyage of Poe Blythe by Ali Condi.
I think I still own this. And I'm pretty sure I haven't read it. But I'm going to check. No, actually, I unhauled that one. All right. Let me get back to the video. Next up.
But I have read one other book by this author and really enjoyed it. And so I want to read more by them. And everybody seems to love them. And that is Final Girls by Riley Sagar.
I'm pretty sure I do still own this one. I don't think I've read it. That is correct. This says, 10 years ago, college student Quincy Carpenter went on vacation with 5 friends and came back alone. The only survivor of a horror movie scale massacre. In an instant, she became a member of a club no one wants to belong to. A group of similar survivors, known in the press as the Final Girls. Lisa, who's lost 9 sorority sisters to a college dropout's knife, Sam, who went up against the sack man during her shift at the Nightlight Inn, and now Quincy, who ran bleeding through the woods to escape Pine Cottage, and the man she refers to only as him. The 3 girls are all attempting to put their nightmares behind them, and with that, one another. Despite the media's attempts, they never meet. Now Quincy is doing well, maybe even great, thanks to her Xanax prescription. She has a caring, almost fiancé Jeff, a popular baking blog, a beautiful apartment, and a therapeutic presence in Coop, the police officer who saved her life all those years ago. Her memory won't even allow her to recall the events of that night. The past is in the past. That is, until Lisa, the first final girl, is found dead in her bathtub, wrist slit, and Sam, the second, appears on Quincy's doorstep. Blowing through Quincy's life like a whirlwind, Sam seems intent on making Quincy relive the past with increasingly dire consequences, all of which makes Quincy question why Sam is really seeking her out. And when new details about Lisa's death come to light, Quincy's life becomes a race against time as she tries to unravel Sam's truths from her lies, evade the police and hungry reporters, and most crucially, remember what really happened at Pine Cottage before what was started 10 years ago is finished. So if you want me to read this, vote Final Girls. A lot of good options so far. And currently we are only a quarter, not even a quarter, but close, of the way through this video. All right, next up.
Next up we have Home Before Dark, also by Riley Sagar.
I'm not sure if I've read Home Before Dark yet or not. I have not. All right, this says, what was it like living in that house? Maggie Holt is used to such questions. 25 years ago, she and her parents, Ewan and Jess, moved into Bainbury Hall, a rambling Victorian estate in the Vermont woods. They spent 3 weeks there before fleeing in the dead of night, an ordeal Ewan later recounted in a nonfiction book called House of Horrors. His tale of ghostly happenings and encounters with malevolent spirits became a worldwide phenomenon, rivaling the Amityville Horror in popularity and skepticism. Today, Maggie is a restorer of old homes and too young to remember any of the events mentioned in her father's book. But she also doesn't believe a word of it. Ghosts, after all, don't exist. When Maggie inherits Bainbury Hall after her father's death, she returns to renovate the place to prepare it for sale. But her homecoming is anything but warm. People from the past, chronicled in House of Horrors, lurk in the shadows. And locals aren't thrilled that their small town has been made infamous thanks to Maggie's father. Even more unnerving is Bainbury Hall itself, a place filled with relics from another era that hint at a history of dark deeds. As Maggie experiences strange occurrences straight out of her father's book, she starts to believe that what he wrote was more fact than fiction. In the latest thriller from New York Times bestseller Riley Sagar, a woman returns to the house made famous by her father's best-selling horror memoir. Is the place really haunted by evil forces, as her father claimed, or are there more earthbound and dangerous secrets hidden within its walls? So if you want me to read this, vote Home Before Dark. All right, next up.
Okay, so those are all of the books that I got from McKay's. Now let's do books. Here, let me add these to the top. Books that I've gotten from subscription boxes. So the first one we have here is actually a book that I already have multiple copies of, but it's a different edition. This is the Puffin Classic edition of The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgkin Burnett.
I have read The Secret Garden. I don't know why I pulled my earbud out. But I have read it. I do still own it. Next up.
Next up we have The Girl and the Witch's Garden by Erin Bowman. And
I'm pretty sure I have read this, and I think I've unhauled it. Oh no, I have read it, but I do still own it. I gave that one 4 stars. All right. Continuing on.
Next we have Straw into Gold, Fairy Tales Respun by Hilary McKay, illustrated by Sarah Gibb.
I'm pretty sure I have read this. I'm not sure if I still own it. I have read it. I do still own it. I actually gave it 5 stars. All right, next up.
Next up we have The Girl and the Ghost by Hannah Alkaf.
Okay, again, I'm pretty sure I have read this, but I don't know if I still own it. Okay, I did read it. I do still own it. I gave it 4 stars. All right, next up.
Actually, I forgot that I had those a little out of order because that other stack was subscription boxes, but some of these here are subscription boxes and some are not. So this first one is actually a giveaway that I won, and that is The 10th Girl by Sarah Faring.
Okay, I'm pretty sure this is one that I unhauled. I actually think I had multiple copies of this and gifted it to other people, and then they all hated it. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to get rid of it. I'm not going to read it. Yeah, I unhauled that. All right, next up.
Okay, this next one is actually the second book in a series, and the publisher sent me the second book. I don't think this is the ARC. I think it's actually a finished copy. But the first book, the author is sending me a copy of that. So I'm going to have to pull up on Goodreads so I can tell you about these. But the one that the publisher sent me is called The Desert Prince. And this is by Alicia Sevigny.
I feel like I actually unhauled this one because I never ended up getting that copy of the first book. I think what I was saying is the author was going to send me an ebook of the first book, and they never did. Actually, it looks like I do still own it, but I think I'm going to go ahead and unhaul it just because I don't have the first book, and I'm not super interested to get the first book. So I'm going to write this one down on my little pad to unhaul. All right, continuing on.
Next up, okay, so here's where we get into the ones where the subscription boxes and the giveaways kind of get mixed. So this next book I have 2 copies of because one came in an Owl Crate box and one I won from a giveaway. So I have 2 copies of Legendborn.
Okay, so I've unhauled one of those copies. I still own and have not read the other copy. Hold on, I just got a phone call I need to return. Okay, that was weird. It like rang half a second and then I couldn't return the call. And it wasn't spam, it was like the hospital calling. So I tried calling back and it was like, this is for outbound only. Okay, so Legendborn. Why did I put this back in my ear? So as I said, I unhauled one of them and I still own and have not read the other. It's on my shelf right over here. I actually own the first and second book in this series. Okay, so this says, after her mother dies in an accident, 16-year-old Bree Matthews wants nothing to do with her family memories or childhood home. A residential program for bright high schoolers at UNC Chapel Hill seems like the perfect escape until Bree witnesses a magical attack her very first night on campus. A flying demon feeding on human energies. A secret society of so-called Legendborn students that hunt the creatures down, and a mysterious teenage mage who calls himself a Merlin and who attempts and fails to wipe Bree's memory of everything she saw. The mage's failure unlocks Bree's own unique magic and a buried memory with a hidden connection. The night her mother died, another Merlin was at the hospital. Now that Bree knows there's more to her mother's death than what was on the police report, she'll do whatever it takes to find out the truth, even if that means infiltrating the Legendborn as one of their initiates. She recruits Nick, a self-exiled Legendborn with his own grudge against the group, and their reluctant partnership pulls them deeper into the society's secrets and closer to each other. But when the Legendborn reveal themselves as the descendants of King Arthur's knights and explain that a magical war is coming, Bree has to decide how far she'll go for the truth and whether she should use her magic to take the society down or join the fight. So if you want me to read this, vote Legendborn. Apparently I got a lot of really good books in this haul. Alright, let's see what we have next. Alright, continuing on.
So this next book, I think I got one in Owl Crate, and the other came, I think, in a different month, but it was a giveaway. But I've pulled it off my shelf just so that you can see the difference between the regular and the Owl Crate. So the regular one, which is the one I won, is Incinerary by Zordea Cordova.
So Incinerary, that was, I think, in my last haul video, I think, yeah, or not my last one, my, I think it was like, have I read it, 88, anyway, so what I did was I kept that one and I unhauled the other one, so this one I would be marking as unhauled. So next up.
Okay, the next book that I have here is one that I got from an Owl Crate special edition box, or an Owl Crate exclusive box. I don't know. It was, I think, just the book and like a pen. That was all that came in this box, but it's like a special cover and everything. And this book sounds so good, and I really wanted the like special cover. So here's what the back looks like, and it's got these foiled edges, and here's the front.
Okay, so this is A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik, and I'm pretty sure I still own this and have not read it. That is correct. Okay, this says, Lesson 1 of the Scholomance. Learning has never been this deadly. A deadly education is set at Scholomance, a school for the magically gifted where failure means certain death, for real, until one girl, Elle, begins to unlock its many secrets. There are no teachers, no holidays, and no friendships, save strategic ones. Survival is more important than any letter grade, for the school won't allow its students to leave until they graduate or die. The rules are deceptively simple. Don't walk the halls alone, and beware of the monsters who lurk everywhere. Elle is uniquely prepared for the school's dangers. She may be without allies, but she possesses a dark power strong enough to level mountains and wipe out millions. It would be easy enough for Elle to defeat the monsters that prowl the school. The problem, her powerful dark magic might also kill all the other students. So if you want me to read this, vote A Deadly Education. Okay, so at this point, we are over halfway through this, and surprisingly, I only have 7 on the list. That is a big surprise. All right, next up.
Next up, we have another Owl Crate book with pretty purple sprayed edges, and that is Star Daughter by Shavita Thagrar.
I feel like I've unhauled this one, but I'm going to check. I did. I unhauled it. All right, get back to my video. All right, next up.
Okay, next is another Owl Crate book, and this one also has no dust jacket. It's just made onto the hardcover, and that is Where Dreams Descend by Janella Angelis. Okay,
I have read this. I feel like I've unhauled it, but I'm going to double check. So this was actually one of our, I probably haven't unhauled it actually. This is one of the Season-a-thon group books. And we had the live show with the author, so I'll link that up here if you want to go and check that out. I did actually unhaul it. All right. So yes, read but unhauled. Okay, next up.
Next up, we have Witchy by Ariel Slamet Race.
I'm not sure if I've read this one or not. I feel like I have, but I could be wrong. Okay, I have not read it, but I do still own it. Then this is a graphic novel, I do believe. Yeah. This says, in the Witch Kingdom, Halen, the strength of your magic is determined by the length of your hair. Those that are strong enough are conscripted by the Witch Guard, who enforce the law in peacetime and protect the land during war. However, those with hair judged too long are pronounced enemies of the kingdom and annihilated. This is called a witch burning. Witchy is a comic about the young witch, Nynaeve, who is haunted by the death of her father and the threat the witch guard poses to her own life. When conscription rolls around, Nynaeve has a choice to make: join the institution complicit in her father's death, or stand up for her ideals. So if you want me to read this, vote witchy. All right, next up.
Next up, we have another Owl Crate book, and that is Bonecryer's Moon by Catherine Purdy.
Let me check. Okay, this is one that I do still own, and I have not read. Okay, this says, from #1 New York Times bestselling author Catherine Purdy comes a high-stakes fantasy duology flush with doomed romance and macabre magic, perfect for fans of Stephanie Garber and Roshani Chokshi. Bonecryers are the last descendants of an ancient famille charged with using the magic they draw from animal bones to shepherd the dead to the afterlife, lest they drain the light from the living. Elise has been prepared since birth to become their matriarch, but first she must complete her rite of passage to kill the boy she's destined to love. Bastion's father was slain by a Bonecryer, and he's been seeking revenge ever since. Now his vengeance must wait, as Elise's ritual has begun and their fates are entwined, in life and in death. So if you want me to read this, vote Bonecryer's Moon. All right, next up.
Okay, this next book, I can't remember if it came in an Owl Crate or an Unplugged book box, but that is Horrid by Katrina Leno.
I feel like I read this, I think, and I feel like I've unhauled it. Okay, actually, it doesn't look like I read it, but I did unhaul it. Also, at this point in time, we're like 3/4 of the way through. All right, next up.
This one came in an Owl Crate Junior box, and that is A Pinch of Magic by Michelle Harrison.
A Pinch of Magic. I feel like I've read this one. No, I guess I'm thinking of something else. So I do still own this one, and I have not read it. This says, a spellbinding middle grade fantasy about 3 sisters: Adventurous Betty, Curious Charlie, and Proper Fliss, who go on a quest to break the curse that's haunted their family for generations. All Betty Wittershins wants is an adventure, one that takes her far away from Crowstone, the gloomy island where she's always lived. But instead of an adventure, Betty and her sisters, Fliss and Charlie, are given of a set of magical objects, each with its own powers: a scruffy carpet bag, a set of wooden nesting dolls, and a gilt-framed mirror. And these magical objects come with their own terrible secret. The sisters' family is haunted by a generations-long curse that prevents them from ever leaving their island at the cost of death. The sisters set out to break the curse and free their family forever, but after stumbling upon a mysterious prisoner who claims to be able to help them, they find themselves in great danger. And in order to break the curse and stay alive, they must unravel a mystery that goes back centuries, one that involves shipwrecks, smugglers, and sorcery of the most perilous kind. So if you want me to read this, vote A Pinch of Magic. And with that one, it sends us over the 10 mark, or it sends us to 10 now, which means I will have to pick the top 2 voted books. So let's see what else we've got. All right, next up.
Next in an Owl Crate box, we have Frightlopedia, an encyclopedia of everything scary, creepy, and spine-chilling, from arachnids to zombies, by Julie Winterbottom.
So I haven't read this, but I feel like I still own this. I think I do. I do. All right, this says, a deliciously creepy book for kids who love ghost stories, monsters, spiders, and more. Combining fact, fiction, and hands-on activities, Frightlopedia is an illustrated A through Z collection of some of the world's most frightening places, scariest stories, and gruesomest creatures, both real and imagined. Discover Borneo's Gormantog Cave, where literally millions of bats, cockroaches, spiders, and rats coexist in pitch darkness. Learn about mythical creatures like the Mongolian death worm, and scarily real ones like killer bees, which were accidentally created by scientists in the 1950s. Visit New Orleans' Beauregard Key's house, where Civil War soldiers are said to still clash in the front hall, plus ghost stories from around the world, a cross-cultural study of vampires and how to transform into a zombie with makeup. Each entry includes a fright meter measurement from 1 to 3 because while being scared is fun, everyone has their limit. So if you want me to read this, vote Frightlopedia. All right, next up.
Next is another Al Craig Jr. book, and this is Quintessence by Jess Redman.
I have read Quintessence. I can't remember if I unhauled this one or not. I did unhaul it, but I gave it 4 stars. I think it was one of those that I just decided I wasn't going to end up reading again, but I very much enjoyed it. All right, next up.
Okay, this next one came in my Unplugged book box autumn limited edition box, and that is Murder Goes to Market by Daisy Bateman.
Okay, I don't know about this one. Okay, so this is one that I still own and I have not read. This says, Claudia Simcoe has left the tech world of San Francisco to start a new quiet life in the peaceful coastal town of San Elmo Bay. Now she owns a market specializing in artisanal, locally made goods. But then Lori Roth, one of her market's vendors, is strangled to death with a wire. And all of a sudden, San Elmo stops seeming so peaceful, especially when suspicion for the murder falls upon Claudia. Things don't get any simpler when a second victim turns up. The body count is rising, and Police Chief Lennox thinks Claudia's the killer. There's friction between her and her weirdo neighbor. Lori's past yields some worrisome questions. A massive pickle jar seems to have played a role in the murder. And if things weren't complicated enough, Officer Derek Chambers, Chief Lennox's new hire, is pretty cute. So if you want me to read this, vote Murder Goes to Market. All right, next up.
Okay, this next book came in, I think, Al Craig Jr., and that is The Barren Grounds by David A. Robertson.
I have not read The Barren Grounds. I'm pretty sure I still own it. I do. This says, Morgan and Eli, 2 indigenous children forced away from their families and communities, are brought together in a foster home in Winnipeg, Manitoba. They each feel disconnected from their culture and each other and struggle to fit in at school and at their new home until they find a secret place, walled off in an unfinished attic bedroom. A portal opens to another reality, Oski, bringing them onto frozen barren grounds where they meet Ochek Fisher, the only hunter supporting his starving community, Miskua. Ochek welcomes the human children, teaching them traditional ways to survive. But as the need for food becomes desperate, they embark on a dangerous mission. Accompanied by Eric, a sassy squirrel they catch stealing from the trap line, they try to save Misua before the icy grip of winter freezes everything, including them. So if you want me to read this, vote The Barren Grounds. All right, next up.
Next up is one of the books that I am super, super excited for. This is a book that I also got a special edition Al Craig box for, and that is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue.
I have read and still own that book. I think I gave it 5 stars. Loved it. All right, next up.
Next up is one that came from an Unplugged book box, and that is The Hollow Places by T. Kingfisher.
I don't think I have read The Hollow Places. I'm pretty sure I still own it, though. Okay, that is correct. This says, a young woman discovers a strange portal in her uncle's house, leading to madness and terror in this gripping new novel. Pray they are hungry. Kara finds these words in the mysterious bunker that she's discovered behind a hole in the wall of her uncle's house. Freshly divorced and living back at home, Kara now becomes obsessed with these cryptic words and starts exploring the peculiar bunker, only to discover that it holds portals to countless alternate realities. But these places are haunted by creatures that seem to hear thoughts, and the more you fear them, the stronger they become. So if you want me to read this, vote The Hollow Places. All right, next up.
And then the last of the book subscription boxes, we have Eventide by Sarah Goodman.
I'm not sure about this one. So I do still own this one, and I have not read it. This says, Madness, Secrets, and Lies, Wheeler, Arkansas, 1907. When their father descends into madness after the death of their mother, Verity Pruitt and her little sister Lila find themselves on an orphan train in rural Arkansas. In Wheeler, 11-year-old Lila is quickly adopted, but 17-year-old Verity is not. Desperate to stay close to her sister, Verity indentures herself as a farmhand. But even charming farm boy Abel Atchley can't completely distract her from the sense that something is not quite right in this little town. Strange local superstitions abound, especially about the eerie old well at the center of the forest. The woods play tricks, unleashing heavy fog and bone-chilling cold, and sometimes visions of things that aren't there. But for Verity, perhaps most unsettling of all is the revelation that her own parents have a scandalous history in this very town. And as she tries to unearth the past, sinister secrets come with it. Secrets that someone will go to violent lengths to protect. So if you want me to read this, vote Eventide. Okay, so that was actually the last book for part 1. Okay, I feel like this wasn't that bad. Like, I forget how many I said. I think I said 59 books, so I probably did like 29 or 30. Okay, so yeah, it is bad. Now that I think about it, that means that there's half of them that I haven't read. So yeah, there's that. Okay, so the options of things you have to vote for. You have The Jumbies, The Friend Zone, Carry On, Final Girls, Home Before Dark, Legend Born, A Deadly Education, Witchy, Bonecryer's Moon, A Pinch of Magic, Frightlopedia, Murder Goes to Market, The Barren Grounds, The Hollow Places, or Eventide. And you can vote for as many of them as you want. I will be picking the top 2 voted books. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give me a big thumbs up. If you'd like to see more videos like this, click that subscribe button down below. And until next time, remember to always be completely you. Bye!